In 1915, Dale Carnegie wrote the world's first self-help book, The Art of Public Speaking. In this work, Carnegie explained how people could get their point across in the most memorable and engaging way. This suggests that even 100 years ago, people had to find a way to distinguish themselves from the crowd to succeed. And if this were true a century ago, it is especially so today. In our globalized world, competition is tough. To make your idea stand out, you have to learn how to sell yourself. But where can you learn how to best sell yourself? What's the contemporary world's equivalent of the art of public speaking? The TED Talk. In this video, I have 7 great ideas from the book, Talk Like TED, by Carmine Gallo. In his book, author reveals the presentation secrets of some of the world's most influential public speakers. Having analyzed over 500 popular talks presented at TED conferences, Gallo identifies the most common features that distinguish those talks from the rest in the world. For the beginning, I would like to tell, for those of you who don't know, what is the TED Talk and how all started. TED, Technology Entertainment Design, is a popular conference for leading thinkers and inventors to present their ideas. Each presentation is a model example of effective selling skills. Started in 1984 as a one-off event, TED's popularity grew rapidly. Today, TED has a global presence. In fact, every single day, 5 TED events take place in more than 130 countries. Because TED Talks feature some of the brightest and most successful people in the world, they're a valuable resource for anyone wanting to become a better public speaker. Now let me start with the first idea from the book. Your passion is the key element of presentation. What do the most successful people in the world have in common? Passion is the intense, positive feeling you get from pursuing activities that are deeply meaningful to you. Consider Tony Hsieh, founder of the successful online shoe retailer Zappos. Hsieh is extraordinarily passionate, but not for shoes. Rather, his passion is for making his customers and employees happy. This passion for increasing the happiness of others has helped to grow Zappos into a company famous for its outstanding customer service and into a great working environment for its employees. In addition to being the foundation of success, passion is also essential in giving excellent presentations. In 2012, researchers studied why investors choose to fund certain startups over others. They watched investors as they listened to 15-minute presentations from various startups looking for money. The study found that the passion shown by the people presenting was a key reason they got funding. This was even more important than their education, experience, or how old they were. But what if passion doesn't naturally flow through your veins? Fortunately, anyone can learn to be a passionate speaker. It simply requires practice. The human brain changes constantly in response to the input it receives. Indeed, a study of London cab drivers found that the region of the driver's brains associated with navigation skills, the hippocampus, tended to be larger than average, explaining their above-average ability to plot the quickest route from A to B. In the same way, if you put yourself in a position where you have to speak passionately on a regular basis, your brain will adapt to the task, and you'll improve at it. Second, how to make a persuasive presentation. Most people think Steve Jobs was one of the best speakers in the world. What made his presentations so convincing? His speeches were full of emotion, which is a key element in all effective and persuasive presentations. One of the first people to think deeply about persuasive communication was the Greek philosopher Aristotle. Aristotle believed that persuasion occurred only when 3 elements, ethos, logos, and pathos, overlapped. The first element, ethos, touches on your character or values. It refers to your experiences or education, both of which can increase your audience's trust in your viewpoint. The second, logos, refers to the logical basis of your argument, which can include statistics or other data to help convince your audience of the concrete reasons for your point of view. The third element, pathos, is concerned with the emotional connection you make with your audience. In the analysis of hundreds of TED Talks, we found that the most popular presentations consist of 65% pathos, 25% logos, and 10% ethos. Clearly, pathos is the most essential feature of a persuasive presentation. But how do you get more pathos into your talk? The best way is through storytelling. In general, storytelling helps you to connect with your audience by making your presentation less abstract and more identifiable. There are 3 types of stories that can help you accomplish this. The first is the personal story. A powerful personal story is one that answers a question such as, "What's your earliest memory of childhood?" The second kind is a story about other people, such as a story about a friend whose first idea for a startup failed miserably, but whose next idea attracted many investors. The third type is a story about successful brands, companies, or organizations. Third, your voice, gestures, and body language. Have you ever listened to a talk where the speaker spoke so slowly that you found yourself drifting off to sleep? Talking faster isn't always the answer. How fast a speaker should talk depends on what you, the listener, are doing. For example, if you're driving a car and listening to an audiobook, you'd want the narrator to speak slowly. But if you're fully focused, like during a presentation, you'd prefer the speaker to speak faster. So, what's the perfect speed for a presentation? The author found that most speakers use around 190 words per minute. However, mastering your voice is just the beginning. Connecting with your audience requires also paying attention to your body language. We gain a lot of information from how we move. In a study, students were shown a video or played an audio recording of criminal suspects' testimonies and asked to figure out who was lying. Students who watched the video were much better at spotting the liars, with a 65% success rate, compared to those who only heard the audio, who had a 55% success rate. So, what sort of body language should you use? Standing straight in front of your audience, demonstrating confidence in your ideas, is one key element. Another important feature of body language is gesture. To use gesture effectively, you should limit your gesturing to the area between your eyes and your belly button, as gestures in this area have the greatest impact. Also, only use your biggest gestures, like stretching your arms out wide when you're making your most important points. Fourth, tell them something they don't know. Wow, really? Think about the moment when you were surprised. That moment probably caused you to pay even closer attention to the source of new information, whether it was a book, a TV program, or a lecture. If you want to capture the attention and imagination of your audience, you should weave novel and surprising information into your presentation. In one popular TED Talk, the deep-sea explorer Robert Ballard presented persuasive arguments for why more money should be spent on deep-sea research. Among many other facts that he shared, 2 in particular were attention-grabbing. The first was that the annual budget of the NASA is equivalent to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's budget for 1,600 years. The second fact was that the greatest mountain range on Earth lies not above ground, but beneath the ocean. People pay more attention and remember things better when they learn new and interesting information. This happens because the brain has a chemical called dopamine that helps with memory. When you learn something new, your brain releases dopamine, which acts like a save button. The more unique and exciting the information, the more dopamine your brain releases, making it easier to remember. Fifth, make your presentation memorable. You probably remember what you were doing on September 11th, 2001, much more clearly than on September 11th, 2002. That's because intense moments stick in our minds. If something really dramatic happens during your presentation, it's likely that your audience will remember your talk and even tell others about it. In 2009, Bill Gates gave a TED Talk that became very popular. It was so notable that NBC News anchor Brian Williams, even though it's rare for a talk to be considered news, talked about Gates's presentation on his news show. What was it about this particular talk that made such an impression? Gates's presentation was about how fatal diseases such as malaria are transmitted via mosquitoes. As he held up a jar filled with live mosquitoes for his audience to see, Gates said that he saw no reason why only poor people should be at risk of being infected this way. Then he opened the jar and set the mosquitoes free. Although Gates quickly added that these particular mosquitoes were free of malaria, his extreme action caused his talk to go viral. The presentation chalked up 2.5 million views on the TED website, and a Google search for the talk returned some 500,000 results. Sixth, perfect structure for your presentation. Have you ever felt tired and drained after listening to a long talk? Your audience might feel the same way. The solution is to keep your presentation short, which helps people remember what you said more easily. Take, for example, Paul King, a professor at Texas Christian University, who breaks his weekly 3-hour class down to 3 single sessions, each lasting 50 minutes. The result? The students retain more information and often score higher on exams. Presentations at TED conferences usually take 18 minutes, which is considered a good length. In addition to keeping your presentation short, keep in mind that it should not cover more than 3 separate themes. Why? In 1956, a Harvard researcher found that most people can easily remember up to 7 new things. However, more recent studies have shown that it's better to think of this as 3 or 4 main pieces of information instead. For example, it's easier to remember the number 2,222 than 3,948. The first number represents a single piece of information, 2, while the second number represents at least 2 pieces, 39 and 48. This shows that the fewer the pieces of information, the easier they are to remember. That's why it's best to limit a presentation to covering just 3 main points. These main points can be organized in a message map. To do this, you must first answer the question, what's the single most important message I want my audience to take away? Once you've got your answer, write that message at the top of a piece of paper, like a headline. Next, you have to find the 3 or fewer messages which support your headline message and list them underneath it. Finally, beneath each of these 3 supporting messages, you can outline their specific content, the meat of your presentation. Seventh, your audience have to remember your ideas. We tend to remember things better when we use all our senses. Richard Mayer from the University of California at Santa Barbara believes that studying how using multiple senses affects memory could be an important area for future research in cognitive psychology. According to Mayer, students who learn through multisensory experiences, like videos, texts, and images, remember information better than students who get information through just one sense, like only seeing or reading. If you want your presentations to be memorable, you should use methods that engage more than one sense. We'll focus on how to share information using the 2 main senses, sight and hearing. There are basically 2 ways to communicate information via sight, pictures and text. You might have seen that the most effective TED Talks use images instead of text-heavy PowerPoint slides. This is because we can only take in so much information at once, and slides full of words can be too much and distract your audience. It's better to use images in your presentation along with just a few key words that highlight your main points. Our sense of hearing can be stimulated by rhetorical devices, such as repetition. Take Martin Luther King's famous speech, in which he repeated these 4 words, "I have a dream." These words are still remembered today, and we immediately associate them with King. That was it for this video. Thanks everyone for watching. If you found this video helpful, please leave your like and subscribe to my channel.